Our continuing coverage from Indianapolis side of the 2025 Scouting Combine. Craig Grialou, Dani Sureck, and a familiar face, a familiar name for Cardinal fans, Charles Davis, NFL Network, but also NFL on CBS. And I think we need to start right there because twice we saw you around the facility this past season.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
2 home games, a win over the Bears, a loss to the Seahawks. 2-part. First game. That was kind of when things were going well for the Cardinals. 5-4 after that win, going into the bye 6-4. But specifically the Bears game, the first half of the season, what you saw from the Cardinals.
Saw what I expected a Jonathan Gannon team to start looking like. Still a roster that needs work, needs more infusion of talent. But Nick Rawless, Drew Petzing, these guys play hard for those guys, and they play hard for JG, and we saw that. The Bears game was a little bit of a weird animal because we weren't quite sure we were going to get out of the Bears. Okay, remember the week before was the Hail Mary game, and they were rolling into that. And, of course, they spent the whole week answering questions. We're fine. We've had meetings. We're this, we're that. And we found out very quickly. I don't know which meetings they had, but it wasn't working, right? And the Cardinals took full advantage of it and played. I just think that overall as a roster, as they continue to get more people in there, and the way the NFL goes now, I know this is a big year. This is a really big year because they had a chance to make that breakthrough last year, didn't quite get there. But I think that this year, here's another opportunity. San Francisco's got to kind of retool a little bit. Obviously, the Rams seem like they're pretty stable at this point. We'll just see how it all plays out. But I like where they're going. I just think, obviously, Monti Ossenfort's done a really nice job so far. Got to continue on that track.
The ascension year 2 for Ossenfort, Gannon, and their respective staffs. Cardinals doubled their win total. They were competitive in the division, led the division for a couple weeks.
I'm glad you brought all this up. I'm glad you brought it all up.
What is a realistic jumping point from year 2 to year 3 with those progressions with the foundation that's been set?
Full contention for a playoff spot. Full contention, like all in it. Entire way, battling it out. I'm not saying they have to. I'm just saying it needs to be all the way through and feel like there's a realistic shot at it. I just think that's kind of how this league goes. But I think next year for the Cardinals, full on, contending for one of those playoff spots, to me, would be the year.
So for that to happen then, as we have now in the offseason, that's where you kind of retool and add. You got free agency, you got the draft. So for you, with your analyst hat on, when you see the Arizona Cardinals coming up in 2025, what do you want to see?
I wrote some notes down. I hope that's okay.
Perfect.
Because let's hear them.
I went to Tennessee, and we are the Harvard of the South. But
I've heard that.
I was not one of those doctoral candidates. But defensively, who's your wrecker that's going to go get a quarterback? Can you get an edge guy? I know B.J. Ojulari, can he come back from injury? But you know what that's like, come back from knees. Oftentimes it's the second year, not the first year. But can you have those people who can put the pressure? I wrote down edge. I wrote down interior defensive line, continue to get better and stronger there. Wide receiver, continue to supplement around it. I think there'll be a breakout for Marvin Harrison. I really do. I think he's going to continue to go. I thought Michael Wilson had a nice year last year. And isn't it interesting? His whole college career was ding, 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 hurt. And now he's be able to play through. And congratulations, married now, right?
Yes.
Very, very happy for him. Offensive front, offensive guard, offensive tackle. I think they've done a nice job, and it seems to me they like big people, right? That seems to be where they want to go with this, with how they want to run the football with James Conner and crew. I think this is a draft that has a lot of big offensive linemen in it that they can plug in and go. And listen, I don't mind playing young offensive linemen. I think a lot of people worry about that. Sometimes it can bite you. Kansas City struggled because they drafted Kingsley's Suamataia out of BYU in the second round, hoping he would be their left tackle. Didn't happen, and you guys know what happened from there. We're the only 3 that didn't get a tryout at left tackle for Kansas City, but it was said and done, and it ended up biting them because Joe Thuney is an all-pro guard. He's not an all-pro tackle, and it killed him in the Super Bowl.
A bright spot for the Cardinals defense was the secondary, especially that back half of the season, and you got to see it. Cardinals defense was some of the best in keeping opponents out of the end zone. A league low 10 passing touchdowns allowed in the last 11 games. A lot of young faces, though, in that group, especially in the cornerbacks room. What positives did you see from that room specifically for the Cardinals for the future and what that's going to look like?
Yeah, you saw the growth. You saw the stature sighting gives you a lot more confidence of what's going on back there. I think that they can walk into that room now and realize we are not just Budda Baker and a bunch of other people, right? Because that happens. And no one would be blaming Budda for it by any stretch. He's a terrific player. But we nationally, all we would talk about, well, Budda Baker, and I don't know who else is playing back there. Well, guess what? We're starting to learn who's playing back there. And I think with Nick Rollis's way of playing, it's not strictly what we call top-down defense. But at the same time, he's going to protect and make everything come here, and then we go get it. And that's a lot better way to play, especially for youngsters. Because if you're always backpedaling, chasing, and balls are flying over your head and all, that makes it tough to come to work each and every week. But they don't have that problem. They're able to make plays, be quicker to the football, see it in front of them, and do it. And I can't wait to see what their improvement's going to be. And I can't wait to see what competition Monti Ossenfort brings in for them, too. Because he's not going to stand pat. He's going to try and be. When I was in college, we used to call it recruiting over someone. All right, so let's say I was a 3-year starter in college. Oh, okay, we're covered there. My head coach would be like, man, we need to get someone better. Because if he gets someone better, that means we're better. Not that we don't like this kid, but if we can be better, that's what you're always trying to do. Can you recruit over them? Can you draft over them? Can you bring in someone over that person? Now, a few people, you're not going to do it. There's no one going over Budda. But you see my point.
You mentioned your college in Tennessee, your position, defensive back. When you look at the Cardinals wide receivers, you brought up Marvin, you brought up Michael Wilson.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from them that gives you belief that, okay, there's something there because as a defensive back, they make it difficult for me to defend?
Two things: size, post-catch. Size, post-catch. I got to go through this big body, strong physically, Harrison, Wilson. And then when they do catch it, I got to get them on the ground. If I don't get them on the ground, I got a problem. You're going to run less plays on offense because you're gaining more yardage. As a defense, for me, if on defense, if I put you on the ground every time you catch the ball, you're going to have to run extra plays. What happens when you run extra plays? I've created more of an environment for you to mess up. Okay, I remember a college basketball coach told me one time, I said, what's your offensive philosophy? He said, shoot the ball as fast as possible. I said, why? He goes, because if I run all these motion offenses and all this other stuff, ball's going to end up in the third row and I didn't get a shot off. I don't want that. Same thing on defense. If I put them on the ground every time, that's more opportunity that you're going to screw this thing up. Most people don't want to run 15-play drives, 10-play drives, all that. It seems like you're grinding it down, but how many of them result in a turnover? There's a penalty late in the drive. Instead of a touchdown, you kick a field goal. That's the key. That's what I see with these receivers. And obviously, Trey McBride is your ultimate example, even though he's a tight end. But I'm counting the tight ends with receivers more and more these days.
When you mentioned B.J. Ojulari briefly, and you talk about it's usually year 2 when looking around the league.
Coming back from those knees.
That's what this season was for Kyler Murray.
Yep.
You saw with your own eyes from the booth 2 games this season. What did you see from him, and what do you think is realistic progressions and improvements for year 7 for the quarterback?
I think if he does what Josh Allen did this year, which was it all came together, didn't it? Do you remember Josh Allen kind of getting out of the – no, this year the interceptions were down, the giveaways were down, everything. He was all in there even though the big plays were still happening. Next step right there. Kyler does that. I mean, every coach tell you can't beat the other team until you don't beat yourself. It's kind of how it works, and it doesn't mean you play scared. It just means don't give them extra opportunities.
If that happens, then it means we'll get to see you and Iron Eagle
We hope
at State Farm Stadium because that's a quality crew on
thank
CBS.
you. You're very kind. I will tell you this. If you guys hit that thing, you'll see us less, which is a really good thing. And what I mean by that is when you hit it right in this league, that means you're playing the 4:25 Eastern games, right? Obviously, you're going to get picked off for Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. You got to do your requisite Thursday. But that's where the number 1 teams operate. That's what you want to do. And every coach in the league wants to play 17 games at the same time every week. They want to play, would that be, noon your time? right?
One or 2 o'clock, yeah.
Everybody wants to play a 2 o'clock game in Arizona at home. Everybody wants to play a 1 o'clock Eastern time game because your routine's set each and every week. No good teams play 17 games at the same time every week. Kansas City, you ever seen their schedule? Philadelphia, you seen their schedule? You want to be that team that bounces around, and that means you don't see us.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see you here at the Scouting Combine. Charles,
Pleasure
always
to
a
see
pleasure.
you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much.